You can't retire in California without selling a kidney, but in these 5 countries, $1,000 a month still buys you sunsets, smiles, and maybe even a personal hammock. Yeah, I know sounds impossible in 2026, right? When even a studio apartment in Los Angeles costs more than a private island in Southeast Asia. But there are still corners of this world where your social security check isn't a joke, it's a lifestyle. Today we're talking about 5 countries where smart, frugal Americans are stretching their social security checks without stretching their sanity. These are real places, not fairy tales cooked up by real estate agents or influencers sipping coconuts on sponsored beaches. We're talking about towns where rent is less than your cable bill back home, where the neighbors wave instead of glare, and where lunch might cost less than your Starbucks order and actually fill you up. It just minds its own business with cheap steak, cold beer, and the kind of calm that makes you wonder why you didn't come here sooner. The capital city, Asuncion, feels like time slowed down just enough for you to catch your breath. It's small, safe, and honest. No giant skyscrapers, no endless traffic jams, no tourists with selfie sticks blocking your view. Just tree-lined streets, local markets where the butcher still knows your name, and neighbors who wave every morning as they water their plants. Paraguay doesn't try to impress you, it wins you over quietly. The first thing that hits you is the cost of living. Renting a clean 1-bedroom apartment just outside the city center, around $220 to $350. Utilities and internet, $60 to $90. Groceries for the month, maybe $160 to $210, especially if you shop at the mercados instead of chasing imported brands. Eating out is laughably affordable. $80 to $120 covers a few restaurant dinners and plenty of roadside empanadas. Healthcare runs $40 to $70 and a few random expenses, haircuts, laundry, or maybe a hammock, another $50 to $80 added up, and your entire life here costs somewhere between $605 and $925 a month. That's less than the property taxes on a modest home in Florida. And speaking of hammocks, Janet from Boston knows all about that. She came here for what was supposed to be a 2-week vacation. She had 1 suitcase and a list of must-try foods. 3 barbecues later, she owned a grill, a hammock, and absolutely zero plans to go home. The neighbors kept inviting her over. She learned to drink tereré, that cold herbal tea. Paraguayans sip all day, and now she swears her blood pressure dropped 20 points just from living here. When friends ask if she's ever bored, she laughs. How can you be bored when the weather's perfect and the neighbors keep bringing you grilled meat? That's the thing about Paraguay. It's not flashy, but it grows on you. It's the kind of place that rewards people who slow down. There's something peaceful about living in a country that doesn't care about competing on Instagram. Here, sunsets replace stress, and nobody's rushing to be anywhere. Even the local saying manana doesn't really mean tomorrow, it means whenever life feels ready. And if you're thinking long-term residency, here is refreshingly simple. Paraguay offers an easy residency by deposit program. Put about $5,000 in a local bank, show proof of steady income, and you can live here indefinitely. No complicated bureaucracy, no endless paperwork. You can even apply for permanent residency after just a few years. The country is politically stable, tax-friendly, and sunny nearly all year. And the people, they're as genuine as it gets. They might not speak much English, but they'll make sure you never feel like a stranger. So, if you're done with the noise, the traffic, and the 24-hour breaking news cycle, Paraguay is your escape hatch. It's for people who want to disappear from chaos, not from the map. You won't find glitz or glamour here, but you will find peace value and a slower rhythm of life that feels a lot like freedom. Because in Paraguay, life isn't about keeping up, it's about finally catching up with yourself. 4. Ecuador. Postcard, living without the price tag. Ecuador is what happens when a country looks like Switzerland but charges Walmart prices. Imagine waking up to the sight of snow-capped Andes peaks, but your breakfast costs less than a Starbucks muffin. That's Ecuador in a nutshell: mountain views, eternal spring weather, and a cost of living that makes your accountant smile for the first time in years. The city of Cuenca is the heart of it all, a colonial gem tucked high in the Andes, known as the expat capital of Ecuador. Cobblestone streets wind past pastel-colored houses and little cafes where locals greet you with a genuine buenos dias, not a sales pitch. The climate feels like spring year-round, never too hot, never too cold, and there's something magical about seeing people stroll through parks lined with flowers while church bells echo across the valley. Cuenca feels safe, walkable, and alive, but without the rush or stress of big city living. What draws people here isn't just the scenery, but the sanity of the prices. Let's talk numbers. A cozy one-bedroom apartment outside the city center, $250 to $450. Utilities hover around $80 to $90, groceries, $200 to $250, and eating out a few times a week might set you back $100 to $160, and we're talking full meals, not appetizers. Health insurance runs $40 to $70, and with extras like laundry bus fares or your weekly coffee habit, another $60 to $80. Altogether, $690 to $1,050 a month gives you a calm, comfortable lifestyle surrounded by mountain air that feels cleaner than your conscience after confession. But what really gives Ecuador its charm are the people and the expat stories that start like a vacation and end like a new life. Take Frank and Linda from Tampa. They showed up in Cuenca with 2 suitcases and a crock pot. 2 weeks later, they'd turned that slow cooker into the neighborhood's social hub. Every few nights, half the street would come by for soup or chili, and Linda had to learn her first Spanish phrase fast. Devuélveme el recipiente, bring back the container. They now joke that the crock pot made them more friends in Ecuador than 10 years of living in Florida ever did. That's the rhythm of life here, slow, social, and surprisingly modern. Internet's fast, healthcare's solid, and the food market's unbelievable. You'll find tropical fruit the size of your head. Avocados so creamy they could replace butter and fresh bread that costs less than $1. Farmers still sell their produce directly from woven baskets, smiling like they know something the rest of the world forgot, that good food and good company don't need to cost a fortune. Speaking of healthcare, Ecuador quietly ranks among Latin America's best for quality and affordability. Private clinics in Cuenca or Quito are clean, professional, and often staffed by English-speaking doctors. A standard checkup, around $30. A dental cleaning, maybe $25. You'll walk out with a real smile and most of your wallet still intact. As for visas, Ecuador makes it refreshingly easy for retirees. The pensionado visa only asks for proof of a steady monthly income, about $800 to $1,000, and you're in. No need to buy property or navigate endless bureaucracy. You can even apply for permanent residency after a few years. Combine that with an affordable healthcare system and a mild, beautiful climate, and it's no wonder thousands of Americans quietly pack up their suburban lawns for a balcony overlooking the Andes. Of course, life here isn't about luxury, it's about balance. You might trade malls for open-air markets and highways for cobblestones, but you'll also trade stress for serenity. The hardest part might be the altitude Cuenca sits at, over 8,000 feet, so you'll need a week to adjust. But once you do, the air feels light, the mornings crisp, and the peace of mind priceless. If you can handle the altitude, Ecuador gives you peace of mind and perfect avocados. It's the kind of country that doesn't just stretch your dollar, it stretches your happiness. Albania, Europe without the price of Europe. Albania is what happens when Europe forgot to charge you admission. Imagine the same turquoise water as Greece, the same cafe culture as Italy, and the same mountain views as Switzerland, just without the crowds, the chaos, or the price tags. That's Albania, in one sentence, Europe minus the headache. The capital city, Tirana, buzzes with life, but never feels overwhelming. It's colorful, creative, and young, where pastel buildings sit beside 1960s relics and street art splashes every corner. You can sip a perfect espresso for $1 while watching locals stroll under palm trees and children chase pigeons in the main square. Drive just an hour and you'll reach the Albanian Riviera, a coastline so beautiful it could easily pass for the Amalfi Coast if the Amalfi Coast served grilled fish for $5 instead of $50. What really shocks most visitors is how affordable daily life is. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment outside the city center, $320 to $500. Utilities, $80 to $110. Groceries, $180 to $240. Eating out with espresso, of course, about $90 to $150. Add $50 to $80 for healthcare and $70 to $90 for random things like bus fares or a haircut. That brings your total to around $170 a month, which for most Americans is less than what they pay for property tax and Netflix combined. And then there's Karen from Ohio. She planned to try Tirana for a month just to see what all the fuss was about. 6 months later, she's fluent enough in Albanian to argue about city politics with her barista and proudly calls her favorite sidewalk cafe the best living room I've ever had. Her days revolve around espresso shots, friendly debates, and long walks along the Lana River. I came for the prices, she said, but I stayed for the people and maybe the pastries. That's Albania's secret. It feels like home faster than you expect. People here are genuinely warm, the kind who'll wave you into their group conversation even if you don't understand half of it. The cafe culture is strong. Everyone seems to know everyone, and somehow you'll be part of that circle within a week. And if you're American, here's a perk: you can stay up to 365 days visa-free. No complicated paperwork, no 90 days, then leave shuffle that other European countries impose. It's one of the longest visa-free allowances for U.S. citizens anywhere in Europe. Pair that with low-cost healthcare and a safe, sunny lifestyle, and you've got a European dream without the European price. Albania isn't trying to impress anyone. It just quietly delivers everything retirees actually need: comfort, community, and coastline. It's Europe's best-kept secret. Just don't tell the influencers, or they'll ruin it for the rest of us. 2. Georgia, where hospitality meets hillside bakeries. Georgia is old-world charm mixed with new-world prices and wine cheaper than bottled water. It's a country where cobblestone streets twist through hills, where grandmothers still bake bread in clay ovens, and where every dinner somehow turns into a feast with strangers who quickly become friends. Tbilisi. The capital feels like a living museum that decided to loosen its tie and dance a little. You'll find 19th-century balconies leaning over narrow lanes, hot sulfur baths steaming in the valley, and the smell of fresh khachapuri, Georgia's famous cheese bread, drifting through the air. The first thing visitors notice isn't the architecture or the prices, it's the people. Georgians have a gift for making you feel like family, whether you've known them for 10 years or 10 minutes. A local might invite you home for dinner after a single conversation, and before you know it, you're clinking glasses of homemade wine while someone's uncle plays the guitar. There's a saying here: a guest is a gift from God, and they mean it. Now let's talk about what your wallet can expect. A one-bedroom apartment outside Tbilisi's center runs about $380 to $550. Utilities stay around $70 to $100. Grocery with those golden loaves of bread and endless tomatoes about $170 to $230. Eating out $100 to $150 a month if you stick to local cafes instead of tourist restaurants. Health insurance hovers around $45 to $70, and the little extras, a haircut, bus rides, or that extra bottle of Saperavi wine, may be $60 to $90. Add it all up, and you're looking at roughly $830 to $1 to $210 per month. Not bad for a place where dinner can last 4 hours and end with everyone singing. Steve from Chicago found that out the funny way. He moved to Tbilisi, swearing he'd hike every weekend the mountains were calling, he said. 2 weeks later, he discovered a bakery up the hill from his apartment. That counts as hiking, he laughs. It's uphill, and I come back with bread that's resistance training. What started as a 1-year plan turned into a new life. He said I stopped chasing promotions and started chasing the smell of freshly baked bread instead. Beyond its humor and warmth, Georgia makes life easy for Americans. You can stay visa-free for up to a full year, one of the most generous policies anywhere in the world. The community of expats and locals blends naturally. Digital nomads, artists, retirees, and curious travelers all mix in cafes that double as co-working spaces and social clubs. The country itself is like a condensed version of everything good about Europe and Asia: the beaches of Batumi, the vineyards of Kakheti, and the snow peaks of Kazbegi, all just a few hours apart. But what really hooks people isn't just the scenery or the prices, it's that sense of belonging. Georgia gives you permission to slow down, to share a meal that never ends, and to toast to life with people who might not speak your language but understand your heart. If you need a friend, you'll find one in Georgia, and probably a warm loaf of bread to go with it. 1. Cambodia. The champion of cheap Cambodia is like moving into a sauna that serves $2 noodles, and somehow you love it. The air is hot, thick, and alive, the kind of heat that sticks to you like a second skin. But once you adjust, it feels oddly freeing. Life here runs at its own rhythm, slower, softer, and a little bit chaotic in the best possible way. In Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, you'll find a mix of expats, locals, monks, and backpackers, all sharing the same cafes, swapping stories over iced coffee that costs less than bottled water. The temples rise out of the mist each morning, motorbikes hum through the streets, and the smell of lemongrass and grilled meat follows you everywhere. The cost of living. Almost unbelievable. Rent for a decent apartment outside the city center, $200 to $320. Utilities and internet, $70 to $110. Groceries, $150 to $200. Eating out, $90 to $140, and you're eating fresh street food, not fast food. Health insurance or a clinic visit, $35 to $60. Throw in laundry transport or the occasional massage, and you're at another $60 to $90. All told, you're living well, very well, for $9 and $20 a month. That's not surviving, that's thriving. Mark from Texas laughs every time someone asks if it's too hot to live there. He says Cambodia taught him 2 things: how to survive monsoon season, and that sweating counts as cardio. You don't need a gym, he jokes. Just walk to the market at noon. But he swears he's never felt healthier or happier. Every day starts with a $1 breakfast, noodles, coffee, a smile, and ends with a sunset over the Mekong River, a cold beer in hand, and not a worry in sight. Cambodia has that rare magic. It makes simple things feel luxurious. Maybe it's the genuine smiles, maybe it's the golden light that hits the temples at dusk, or maybe it's the fact that nobody seems to be in a rush. The pace of life invites you to breathe again. You can lose track of time here, and that's exactly the point. Visa rules easy. Tourist visas are extendable, and there are long-stay options for retirees or remote workers that don't involve endless paperwork. You can settle in for months or even years without the stress that other countries pile on. In short, Cambodia stretches your dollar until Lincoln starts to complain, but you'll be smiling while he does. Because when life slows down, food tastes better. Strangers feel like friends, and $1,000 a month feels like a small fortune. You realize something simple: happiness doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be genuine, and Cambodia delivers that in spades. Remember, visas can change. Healthcare varies from place to place, and yes, your rent will skyrocket if you insist on living right above a Starbucks. That's just life. So here's the real secret: live like a local. Eat where they eat, shop where they shop, learn a few words of their language, and most importantly, slow down. Once you do, you'll realize that life doesn't need to be expensive to feel complete. Because these 5 countries, Paraguay, Ecuador, Albania, Georgia, and Cambodia, all prove one thing: retirement isn't the end, it's an upgrade. It's the moment you trade stress for sunsets, bills for friendships, and alarm clocks for the sound of birds at dawn. The world is vast, your wallet might not be, but happiness, that one grows anywhere. You don't need a mansion, just a peaceful view. You don't need luxury, just serenity. And you don't need a perfect plan, only the courage to begin again somewhere new. So what about you? Which of these 5 would you choose? The quiet rivers of Paraguay, the crisp mountain air of Ecuador, the espresso-scented streets of Albania, the bread-baked hillsides of Georgia, or the golden warmth and gentle smiles of Cambodia? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which one is calling your heart. And if you love a lifestyle that's smart, frugal, and just a bit adventurous, hit that like button, subscribe, and join our community of global retirees who are rewriting what freedom really means. Got it? Get it good. Because sometimes the most beautiful chapters of life begin somewhere far from home, where the sunsets last longer and the smiles cost nothing at all.